You know what time it is? It's time to get in the game with your host, Cynthia J.
Good Tuesday evening, everyone. Welcome to your favorite sports show on the dial. Cynthia J here, your host of Get in the Game, and thank you so much for joining us here this Tuesday evening. You could be anywhere this evening, but you chose to hang out with us. So we appreciate that here at Get in the Game. And our special guest this evening, he appreciates you joining us and taking the time to talk about his passion and his love. And to my right is sitting Mr. Marcus Richardson. Thank you for joining us. Yes, he is joining Get in the Game this evening. He is the current strength and conditioning coach at Edward Waters College and former football linebacker and safety. We were just having an interesting conversation offline about the transition from linebacker to safety, so don't worry, I'm going to have him talk about all of that so you can get to know a little bit about him. But first, before we get into the nature of tonight's conversation, which is strength and conditioning and the importance of strength and conditioning for an athlete as well as the everyday person, there was just a major game on Sunday, and it would not even be in my nature to not act like the Kansas City Chiefs and my favorite coach, Andy Reid, heading to Miami for the Super Bowl. So I know you watched the game, and as a former football player, were you shocked by the outcome? I think a lot of people were expecting the 49ers to win, but they didn't. So what was your expectation?
I was expecting Tennessee to win. That whole underdog thing is just something that's in my blood. So, yeah, that was a shocker when they lost. But San Francisco been a shoe-in this whole time. We kind of figured it. We predicted that back in September. A couple of people I work with, a couple of coaches actually. So you could feel San Francisco having that. They were on a run. They just had the momentum. It's worked out in their favor. Tennessee came on real strong at the end, and I honestly thought that they were gonna really take it, but you know, Mahomes he's nothing to get messed up with, man. So that's the other. Kansas City, they're legit. So.
Yeah, I think they're gonna win the big chip. What do you think?
Gotta go with San Francisco.
Oh no, you're picking against my. If I would have known
the defensive coordinator for the 49ers is a former coach of mine when I was with the Texans. Salam, whatever. Okay. So he was the defensive assistant coach when I was in Houston. So I've kind of watched, and he's done magnificent, man. Great job so far. So I gotta go for San Francisco just because I watched him go from being an assistant like down the line to where he's at now. So I gotta go to San Francisco.
Well, no offense to you and your friend, but I'm pulling for the Kansas City Chiefs because I'm an Andy Reid fan.
I love Andy Reid.
Yeah,
I love
but you
Andy
don't love
Reid.
him that much.
Not enough to go against somebody I know.
Okay, got you. Yeah. So let's talk about the game because your background is strength and conditioning, and tell us how you got into strength and conditioning. What makes someone, out of all of the sports, all the fields within sports that you can choose, why would you choose strength and conditioning? Explain what that is because some people may not know what that is.
Well, I got lucky at the beginning of my college career. You can't declare a major your first 2 years of college. So when I got to Troy, seeing what it did for me via my strength and conditioning coach, Coach Shaughnessy, it was just a eye-opener to see how your body can change over that short amount of time. So that's what made me want to get more involved in it. So I declared my major in that field, and that's kind of how it happened from there, really. That's how I got into strength and conditioning. But of course, football was the passion. Football was the goal. Everything I did was in concert to being successful on the field and going to the next levels or whatever you want to call it. So that was the process of it. But strength and conditioning is the implementation of weights and conditioning and all that good stuff that most people dislike a lot to get stronger and better and more athletic and reduce injuries primarily. That is the main goal, injury reduction.
Awesome. So we'll go into that a little bit later, but
Okay.
I wanted you to make that, clear to our audience, because in this Super Bowl we have coming up, there are two specific individuals that have amazing comeback stories. One being Richard Sherman, veteran in the league, corner, used to be known as one of the shutdown corners of the league. Has what people thought was a career-ending injury because, I mean, honestly speaking, an Achilles injury. And talk about just the extent of that injury, because he's not here to tell us about it, but since you're in strength and conditioning, how major was that injury for him?
It's one of the top 5 injuries we never want to hear coming through the training room. ACL, the MCL, PCL, anything with the knee and Achilles. If you can have any type of injury to your ankle, we can work through it and we can get you back in 4 to 6. Achilles is a year. It's a tendon, and you're out because it has to simply just heal on its own. You're in a boot, you're immobilized, and you're just there walking straight up and down on your foot for 6 to 8 months until you start your rehab. And then it's a gruesome and brutal injury. It's same thing Kevin Durant had.
Right.
Same injury.
Kobe had it twice.
Yeah. But it's basically just the tendon ripping off at the bottom of the heel.
Ouch.
And it basically, if you look at it in a sense, it pulls and it just kind of rolls up.
Yeah.
And the surgery is the bringing of it back down and bringing it back together at its insertion right there behind the heel. So
and not only did Richard tear his Achilles, but he did it in his 30s.
Right.
And so when you talk about an Achilles injury on the body of someone who is 30, but in football years
that's
probably
a dinosaur. Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's the way it goes. At 26, 27, coaches are telling you got a bright future.
Right.
At 28, they're making sure you got your degree because you are coming down. Yeah, I mean, it's just downhill.
You're on your way down.
Yeah, when you're 28, 29 in the NFL, you are considered an old man.
Yeah.
30, 31, you better really be balling
Yeah.
to maintain, because they'll cut you just because of age, because they got to pay you your minimum.
Right.
So every year you're in the league, your minimum goes up.
Yeah.
So at one point, at 30, 31, they can get a guy just coming out of college for half the money that they're paying you. So you have to
Right.
really be good later on in the age. Yeah.
And obviously he is really that good,
He is
because for
awesome.
someone to take him
Phenomenal.
on after an injury like that and
Absolutely.
still believe in him, not only believe in him, but run a defense to where he can still
right.
shadow
Right.
some of your opponent's top receivers. So even though we obviously know, he's not here to talk about the treatment he went through, but you've played football. You're a strength and conditioning coach. You've seen these injuries.
Absolutely.
What was some of the things he probably had to go through in order to come back as quick as he did and be able to still be as smooth as he is?
Coming back quick is a comfort thing. So he came back quick, but he had to reassure his athletic training staff. There's no telling the number of conversations they had to have about if he's really ready to move to the next phase of his rehab, because at Edward Waters, an Achilles, we are taking our precious time because it's an expensive surgery.
Yeah.
You can't come back too fast and then re-rupture, and then now we're back spinning that same. It's just too much. So he'll start the process off really slow. Calf raises, just simple things to kind of ignite the muscle. He does everything else along the way to keep the rest of his body in shape. The ergometers, whatever he has to do. But the Achilles in and of itself, it's a slow process. And most training staffs, from my experience, and this is everywhere I've been, you take your time with the ACL and you take your time with the Achilles because you just don't want to, because it's so fragile. It's in such a spot that it's so easily to re-injure. So you take your time. So he went through a gamut of things, but to his credit, to his advantage on that level, they have everything.
Yeah.
The NFL, I mean, they have whirlpools for days.
Right.
Training, athletic trainers. They
Doctors.
have 20 on there. Doctors are in-house. Everything. The surgeon is there every day. He has so many people at his level of talent, of course. He has so many people watching him daily, he could probably rehab more than the average person that has to go to work, and he literally is at work rehabbing. So his entire day is rehab. So there's no telling how much stuff he went through, but at the same time, he had the capacity to do it because he's got so many people around him. So and they're all top of their field on that level.
So now let's talk about Patrick Mahomes, because we saw him kind of in the middle of the season endure a knee injury. It wasn't a tear of anything, but I think it was some structural damage, like meniscus issue. But even as a quarterback, one who is mobile, okay, and I think what helped him is youth. Youth was on his side, being young and having that injury. I think he was able to come back quicker. So talk about, some of the rehab he probably experienced to get back as soon as he did.
To be honest with you, it's a tricky question because you don't know how significant of an injury it was. He's a very mobile quarterback. So if it was meniscus, you're thinking, I know guys have played with a meniscus in 3-4 weeks. Some in the NFL level, when they say 4 to 6 weeks, that 4 to 6 gap is just in case you need it.
Right.
6 to 8 weeks is just in case you need it. So rehabbing those injuries are always specific to the athlete and their tolerance. Like same with Richard Sherman. If you come into the training room at Edward Waters and say, everything hurts when you touch, we have to back off of you until we can at least touch you. Some guys are tougher than others. Some guys can withstand pain more than others. And that pain scale that's where the play comes in. If you feel like you can do a body weight squat, if you feel like you can do a vertical loaded squat, and it doesn't hurt you bad enough to make you say, ow, or scream, then we keep progressing you as such. So we progress you to your pain tolerance. And that's where the rehab comes in, because we're really just strengthening everything around whatever the injury is for the most part. So I mean, if he had a meniscus, he definitely started out on a leg press, and he probably went from leg press to a freestanding, something of that nature. But it's really hard to say, because in our field, you got to be there.
Right.
If you're not there watching it, and then some of these doctors and some of these DPTs and people that are on those levels, they've been doing this stuff for 50 years, 40 years. Some of those guys know stuff that they've forgotten more stuff than, so it's just, it would just really be an interesting process to watch from our side of the field. But who knows? He's a mobile quarterback, and he's still performing. So well, what matters.
He's definitely proved that he is just as elusive and as healthy as he was before. So let's switch gears, because I want our audience to get to know Mr. Richardson, who was the player, and then the transition into life after football. Because I think sometimes that transition is hard for some people. So did you always grow up with the passion of, I'm going to play football and I'm headed to the NFL?
No. I grew up with the passion to play football, yes. My dad is a huge football fan.
Okay.
So me and my dad was a single parent. He raised me and my brother. So my dad, being a football guy, we migrated toward the sport because of him. And then, of course, it was always about just impressing my dad. It was never about going to the NFL. And then Charles Woodson won the Heisman. I remember those times when, then I remember my pop making a comment. I think I maybe 10 years old, and he said something like, "Man, I bet that kid's parents are proud of him because he won." And at that moment, I'm like, "All right, gotta figure this thing out now." So that was and to be honest with you, I was a wide receiver and a running back all through high school, and I got no scholarship offers. My senior year, I moved to safety. And when I moved to safety my senior year, and my dad was everybody was a little edgy about it.
Yeah.
And it was like first game, 2 pick sixes and 4 tackles. And from there, scholarships came out of I had 6 offers, I think, by week 6.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy at my house during that time. That was a crazy time.
Now let me ask you a question. Yeah. Because you played 3 years at wide receiver and running back. All of a sudden, who suggested you switch to safety?
Head coach for Escambia High School, Pensacola, Florida, Mike Bennett, and Gary Coward. Those 2 guys I owe, because Coach Bennett came to me one day and asked me if I wanted to go to college to play ball because I had good grades. I had good enough grades, and I had great size. And he said, "You need to go to DB." And I'm looking at him like, "Are you serious?" And then Coach Coward comes up to me and goes, "Yeah, man, you need to go to." No, not Bill. I wish. But no, Coach Coward comes up to me and goes, "Man, yeah, you need to, but you're an athlete."
Right.
And I'm like, well, listen, I got no offers. So I got nothing to lose.
Right.
And they had a great plan. And Coach Coward worked with me, man, day in and day out, night in and night out. It was just I owe those guys everything luckily for me, I've never been a bullheaded guy. I've never been so stuck on myself that I couldn't learn. Right. So they made the suggestion. I figured, risk versus reward. Let's try it out. And it worked. So, and then I went to Troy as a Troy University, Troy, Alabama, home of the Trojans. And then that's how that went.
Okay.
I was a 2-star. I was considered a 2-star or 2.5-star athlete when I went to Troy.
Okay. So what other schools had offered you at that point in your senior year?
Man, first calls were from Vanderbilt and Maryland the same night. That was crazy.
Maryland Terrapins.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, they didn't offer, but those were the first calls. And because, again, they saw me, I played safety that May. And me and a few of my friends, we got invited to the Nike camp up in Tuscaloosa. And that's how it all started. And then Maryland and Vandy were the first ones. The first scholarship offer was to Iowa State. Wow. And then Troy came in, Middle Tennessee. South Carolina had already offered all of the safeties and had commitments, but they wanted me to come walk on, and then they were talking about like putting me on scholarship afterwards. Who else? Tennessee State, Tuskegee. Who else? Iowa State, Middleton, Troy. I may be forgetting one or two, but that was about it. But I had like 8 offers total. And then you narrow down to 5. You take your visits, and then you make your decision.
So what made you choose Troy University?
Well, I visited other schools, and Troy had everything those schools had. Because you hear the name, and it's a mid-major, so you don't think about it being like Clemson or Alabama. And they had just built a brand new stadium. It was beautiful, brand new weight room. Everything was gorgeous, and they were building it, and playing time. It was about, at that point, it's like, okay, well, I can go to and sit on the bench for 3 years or 4 years. I was starting as a redshirt sophomore. So I started 3 years at Troy. So they kept their promise. It's just, it worked out.
Yeah. So if you could sum up your college experience in like 5 words or phrases as a student athlete, the pressures that comes with, things that you've learned, things that you now take into your career, what would those phrases or words be?
First is culture. I push that a lot because at Edward Waters, it's not that we don't have it, but I would like everybody to up their culture game more and be just as proud of Edward Waters as I am of Troy. So culture would be one. And then you got those cliche ones, the discipline, the hard work, that stuff. Those are important and those are true. You do need them; they are required if you want to be successful at anything. And that's the value system played to me. But I think that culture, for me, the reason why culture sits at the top is because if you are prideful about it, you will defend it, and by defending it, you won't let. It will make everyone's job easier, if that makes sense. Because I remember when I was in college, if you show up, we had 5 a.m. workouts. If you show up at 5:01, you're late. Go. You come to the 6:30. If you miss workouts, coaches, I don't remember a time when coaches had to get on guys about missing weights. They read off who missed weights, and we'd address it in the locker room. And it wasn't like a fight or nothing, but it was all right, well, and then we would go and tell the coaches, like, look, he needs to roll. We need to get him out there because he's taking us down. He's a great athlete, great, but he'll be great somewhere else. And that culture stuck with us, and we ended up winning 3 championships off of it.
So as a strength and conditioning coach, because a lot of times, and people may not recognize this, but for someone who is an avid football watcher, there is that guy on the sideline that's like running up and down the sideline. The guys are coming off, make a great play. Their chest bumping. That's typically the strength and conditioning coach.
That is.
So you mentioned the word pride.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about the pride that you have for the institution that you're currently at and just what it means for you to build that culture in your athletes on a daily basis.
The future is so bright. Mm-hmm. It's frustrating because you want to push forward. You get ahead of yourself, and that's something I can't do. Because we're building a new stadium. Okay, great.
Right.
That brings in
EWC is building
Edward
a new
Waters
stadium.
College, right?
Yes.
Is building a new football stadium. So that's like, okay, that changes a lot because we don't have a stadium. So it's hard to build a culture when you don't have a home.
Right.
So when you get that home, now you have a place to defend, and then now, boom. So now you take care of that. And then you got the upgrading of the dorms, and Dr. Faison is doing an awesome job just making the institution something that, I'm not going to say it wasn't, but the things that we needed. He's in his 30s still, his late 30s. He's still young enough to understand the things that you need to attract students to attract the culture, and that's important. Mr. Bryant, Paul, he's our new athletic director. He's awesome.
Hey, Dr. Paul Bryant.
Paul Bryant, head athletic director at Edward Waters College. I spoke to him on the way over here, so. So and he's awesome and level-headed. We have a level-headed crew of people in our upper administration, and I mean across the board, and that's great because you can see the changes. It's not a lot of talking, and that's something I cannot stand. I hate a talker. Show me action. Give me all that, but I can't do nothing with that talking, that stuff.
That kind of comes with being a safety, don't you?
Well,
right?
but you must back it up. But
you
must back it up.
Right,
and even better in their positions because they don't have to do a lot of shouting. You can see the changes coming. You can see everything happening. So that's what makes that whole thing great. So me, as far as my position and running up and down the sidelines, I try not to do that because we're having a rough patch with football. We're having that rough patch where now it's like every morning workouts are starting at 5 a.m. I'm up at 3 a.m. and we are 100 miles an hour in there now.
Right.
This is off season
and
it's right. So this is the way it goes. And in order for us to get to that 10-0 season, that 9-1 season, in order to get there, these mornings are where it's at. So my energy on the sideline is normally like but now with basketball and the other sports, we're trending in a good direction with those. But football is that one we got to get it right, and we're doing it. Coach Ruffin's doing a great job at getting new guys in, new culture, and he tells me that every day. I talk to him all the time. We email every day, and he's real big on that same thing. He wants to change the culture, the pride of the players, and things of that nature. So. Oh yeah, we'll get there.
You'll get there, yeah. So let's backtrack a little bit because obviously there's a story of how you got to EWC. You're in your senior season, so like redshirt senior at Troy University.
Oh no. I left Troy.
Okay.
And established my residency in Orlando, of course, but I moved to Houston.
Okay.
Played in Houston and went to Indianapolis and went to Canada. I bounced around the league. I played for like 8 different teams. From 2 weeks at a time. That's what I meant when I said it's just a stressful place. It's not. I'm a journeyman, as they call it. So I don't have a lot of stats. I don't have a lot of pictures. I mean, I have some pictures, but I wasn't a guy like that. I was never a starter in the league, that type of deal. I was a special teams guy, role player. When I got done playing, I took a job in Orlando with the Orlando Predators, the arena football team, with JT Thomas. He owned a sports performance company, and they were in charge of that. And we did great. We won. We did great. And then one day, I knew I needed to get on the college level, so I just started like Googling schools around the area, and I saw Edward Waters, and I'm like, okay. So I go on their sports athletics site, and I noticed they had football, they had all of these sports, and I'm thinking, okay, why have I never heard of this school? And the entire time I'm looking for strength and conditioning or athletic training. I'm looking for those departments. I don't see anything. So I see Stanley Cromartie email. So I email Mr. Cromartie, and I basically just tell him like, look, I need to get on the collegiate level. I'm certified. I got my CSCS. I got everything that's required by NCAA. I work for free. And he looked and he emailed me back and said, "Are you serious?" And I said, "Yes." And he says, his next email was, "You must be a gift from God. Call me."
Oh, wow.
I called him and we scheduled an interview for like that following Thursday. I drove up from Orlando, sat with him, and I mean, we just hit it off from that moment. And then from there, love Crow. And again, I owe him because I mean, he was the only person that gave me a chance. I applied to plenty of other schools.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I didn't get interviews. So had to take, the job for free. And then I worked for Edward Waters for 2 years, for free. And
wait, time out. Out. Yeah. You worked, well, technically you can't say worked because when you work somewhere, you're getting a paycheck. So you volunteered your services.
I was definitely a volunteer.
I
was definitely a volunteer.
You gifted your talent, skills, and abilities for 2 years.
Yeah.
2 full years. Yeah. 365 times.
Yeah, my pop was a little agitated about that.
That dad again.
Yeah.
What makes someone do that? I do love what I do. I won't deny that. I mean, like I said, I get up at 3 a.m. I don't think I ever hit the snooze button. Mm-hmm. I get up. I've been up since 3. I'm a higher energy guy. I'm overly obsessed with my craft. I want to be the best at it. And I knew I needed to do that. So that's what put me there. And then it was just okay. Then I actually, after that though, I did interview with 2 schools in South Florida. Okay. And I was walking out of the interview with one of the schools, won't mention. But it's a great school. And it's a good school. It's a great school down there. And I'm actually walking out of the interview and Mr. Cromartie called me. He was like, "Hey man, we're gonna put you on salary full time." And I'm like, wow.
So then it was like, all right, how we gonna play this? So now I'm like, okay, well if they call, I just tell them no, because I was already established in Jacksonville, I had everything, and I wanted, because I did want to be in that ground floor of this whole building thing, and that was the sequence for me. So it was a brutal 2 years, but
yeah, I was just getting ready to ask you, and I think you began to answer the question that it's Edward Waters, and one of the conversations that I had with Dr. Paul Bryant is it's not this glamorous school. Right. It's like Jacksonville's stepchild. Right. Because you hear UNF, you hear Jacksonville University, you'll even hear FSCJ before EWC, and they don't really have any programs. Right. So, you come from Troy University, you have some experience in the league playing professional, and then you pick EWC out of all the HBCUs that are in Florida, because there's Bethune-Cookman, there's FAMU, which is considered, some of the top historically black colleges and universities. You chose EWC because, or would you say EWC chose you, maybe?
Well, I initially chose them and then they accepted me. I guess that's a way I could word it, maybe, but I'm good at recognizing potential. At least I would like to think I am. So, I mean, you take it back to the same illustration of leaving running back and wide receiver and going to safety. I'm not so bullheaded and egotistical within myself to not look at something and say, all right, we can make it work if. And then that's when the evaluation comes in into the picture. So, I mean, Edward Waters has done me great. They've done right by me since the beginning, even when I was a volunteer. So, I mean, I can't shun the experience, and I tell people that all the time because no one wants to hear work for free and volunteer. Nobody wants to hear
People don't do that nowadays.
I mean, if you're out there and you want it that bad, you'll have to make that sacrifice because, I mean, you just don't, I'll say it like this, everybody doesn't let you in like that. And that's just how it works. And there's people in the NFL level fighting for that same thing. It's everywhere you look, everyone's trying to kick and scratch to get in what they call their place that they feel they deserve. That was just my way of doing it. If I go back in time, I would do it all over the same way.
So you seem to be a problem solver. You like
I try to
solving problems and seeing the potential in things. So 5 years from now, as the strength and conditioning coach, if you're still at EWC, how do you personally, because you're like over this whole department that is going to try to push through these athletes, how do you change the culture of this athletic department?
It's not a mission I can do alone. We have a great coaching staff, men and women's basketball, baseball. I mean, we across the board, we have great coaches. I need their help because I'm only as good as the coaches. Coaches recruit players. My job is to make them bigger and faster and stronger as the number goes. So, and the illustration I use, and I'm going to say it again, if you bring me a Honda, I'll just make it a better Honda. If you bring me a Bentley, I can make it a better Bentley, but it's still a Bentley.
Right.
The performance is what we're looking at. So coaches have to recruit those type of players. And you give me something good, I can make it better. And if you give me something mediocre, I can just make it a better mediocre thing. So me personally, as far as my role, I'm going to continue doing things the way we do it. I'll continue to grow. I'll continue to reach out to every strength coach I know. I still call my strength coach from Troy all the time. He puts me on three-way with other strength coaches everywhere. I mean, I get a lot of information because we don't have the facilities that we quite need yet. So, and I know we're all working on that. So when we get our facilities in conjunction with what we need to compete on those next levels, then I personally, in 5 years, I want to see us knocking at FAMU's door. I want to see us knocking at Bethune-Cookman's door because, I mean, we don't have a reason not to. So 5 years, I think with the growth of what Dr. Faison's doing and how Dr. Bryan is managing the department, I mean, the sky's the limit as long as everyone keeps pushing. The moment people start getting lazy, that's the moment we're going to all perish. And that laziness is that comfort, you can't get comfortable. That is the express way to mediocrity. If you get comfortable, you're guaranteed plateau. So I've never been comfortable. I don't even hang pictures in my office. I don't do it. My whole office is empty. It's just 4 white walls and computers and a couch. Because to me, if I got in and did all that, that would show a level of comfort, and that would, to me, feels like I would be taken away from what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not supposed to be in that office like that.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be on my feet on that floor getting these guys and girls ready to play. So if I can sit down for hours, I need to go home.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Good point. I guess that's why Dr. Bryant said you're the best. Because when I asked him, he said, well, in my opinion, and he's an honest man, so he said he's the best.
I appreciate that.
So really quickly as we wrap up, so coming up in February, my goal on the show is to do a series on life after football. And so while I have you here, just kind of speak to, because we hear the not so good stories sometimes, the guys that go broke, the guys that have CTE. You look at the Antonio Brown situation. What's your opinion of that? Do you have one?
I have one. And
is it safe to say on air your opinion?
It is. It's a joke, actually.
Okay.
We at awards we have a lot of kids from South Florida.
Okay.
Tyquan Cooper, one of our old linemen, and a couple other guys. I always mess with them and I say, here come the Miami boys. Because it's just something about them that's just different. And it's almost like they work to be different. It's almost like they're trying to be. It's almost like if you tie your shoe like a normal person ties their shoe, you put the Miami boys in there to tie their shoe, they're going to do something weird before, just how they are. But it's a joke. But I used AB as an example of that, meaning all the talent in the world.
Yeah.
You have, you got all this money, you got all this talent. You are the epitome of what you go to the NFL for. And for one reason or another, you just can't get it together. And that illustration is what I tell people about my journey from high school to college. I had good grades. I had a 3.4 GPA. I had my test scores all done. And then when they moved me to that new position, I excelled because I was an athlete. But I had the package that Troy was looking for. They wanted a good kid with a stable head on his shoulders that would come in, work, and play, and shut up.
Yeah.
And play. And it's just the truth. And every college coach wants that. So Antonio Brown, I'm not saying he needs to, quote unquote, shut up, but he needs to use that energy, to me, to better things, because he can. He has the platform and he has the talent to do so. So my opinions of AB as a person, I don't have any, but I feel like he could have used his platform to shine light on this coaching situation and the Rooney Rule. And, I just feel like those things could be something he could have had a much bigger impact on. But, going forward, we'll see. I hope he gets back in the league. He's too talented to be sitting at home.
My opinion of that, and we're going to have a sports psychologist on next week, because I think there are some mental things going on. I think he's not a healthy individual mentally.
Well, his agent just detached from him.
Rosenhaus
said that he wants him to seek treatment.
Yeah.
I believe it, but my dad was in the Marines and he's a cop. He's been a cop all my life. My dad's a real make your bed guy. I believe that those issues that AB got could have been addressed when he was 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Because I think that my success has came because of, my dad just didn't play that.
Right.
Period. It just was what it was. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it'll be an interesting conversation for next week. But in terms of the transition from being an athlete to now being in charge of athletes, how does one get comfortable in that space? Because a lot of times, guys and girls for that matter, because it's not just the male professional athlete, it's females sometimes too that go into a state of depression.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or they fall off the map, or they can't just get it together.
I experienced
after. So tell us your experience and how you overcame it.
Well, here's what happened. My first job when I finished playing, at the little time when I got cut from the Colts, I was a bank teller. So you got to understand, you go from everything you just had in Houston and everything you just had in Indianapolis, now you're a bank teller.
Yeah.
And you got to wear the suit and the shirt and tie, and it was very much so not my character. So when I got the opportunity to go to Canada and play, I knew right then I needed to get back in these books and get all of my certifications and get everything I needed to get done, so that when I'm done playing this next time, I can go into a field where I am not feeling depressed, because I realized that my depression I only felt depressed when I was getting up in the morning to go to work, at work. When I got off work, I would go in the bathroom of the bank and change clothes just to get out of the clothes, because I had to start putting myself through these little mental evaluations. I could feel the depression. I could feel myself in traffic, the rat race feeling, that not going nowhere. What am I going to do next? And it's a very daunting feeling, especially when you're used to hitting people. And you're used to, someone says something to you, you can say whatever you want back to them. And when you go from a world of this overly freedom of expression and violence, and to be honest, it is violent. And you must be a violent person to survive in that world, period, college and pro. So to go from that to bank teller, Marcus, you were 3 minutes late. It was, I could feel it. And I felt the depression, and I didn't necessarily have to seek counseling, but I got great friends. I can be honest, my friends are. So that was what helped me get through it. Talking to them, talking to my god brothers, and talking to my cousins, and just trying to map out who I was as a person, because when football is taken away from you now, you got to find that identity. Woo! And that's hard to do. But I knew I loved the weight room. And I get calls from coaches all the time about actually coaching football, like a position. And a friend of mine who's a coach at a school up in Georgia, he said, man, you've left so much money on the table not coaching football. And I just tell him, like, man, I'm just too in love with the weight room. I don't have a problem with doing the weight room and coaching, but you can't take the weight room away from me. That's just that, because that's why I feel like I'm the most comfortable, because I like to use my brain. I'm not a jock in the sense to where I don't like to use my brain, and I like to learn. I'm a reader. I like learning, and so you take me out of the weight room, and then it's like I'm just doing all the second nature stuff on the field, and it's like, okay. And that's what makes me run up and down the sideline when you miss a tackle.
Yeah.
Because I'm remembering what my coach told me about running all the way through the tackle, step on his toes, put your hips through him, and push him. Like, I remember all those things. So that's second nature. I feel like it wouldn't be as challenging.
So in closing, for athletes who, find themselves in the 98th percentile of those that won't make it, because, they say now NFL not for long. So even those that don't necessarily continue on in their higher education and finish their degree, is it safe to say you can still have that same passion that you had
Absolutely.
On the field, on the court, in the pool, playing tennis? Just go find your position, your niche in the field of sports, and then use your gift, talent, skills, and ability to pour into those coming after you.
My best friend, Sherrod Martin, is a barber in Atlanta. Now, he played 4 years for the Panthers. He played a year in Chicago, a year in Jacksonville. He played NFL football, like a starter, the whole shebang. Best friend. We went to Troy together. And Sherrod is a barber. And he started his barbering campaign when he was in the league. That's what he did. He came out and went straight into being a barber. But he knew a long time ago when he was cutting our hair in the dorms in college what he wanted to do. I knew year 2 in college, I just really like working out because I was 180 pounds. Well, I was 180 pounds when I went to college. I left at 235.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with the eating and the lifting and all the stuff that came with it, and I love the results of it. The results is what. So
that transformation
right.
is phenomenal, right?
I would tell any kid, understand, especially if you're playing, basketball, you got a lot of options. You can go everywhere and play. Softball doesn't have those options. Other sports don't. But football is 3,200 guys every year coming out of college to get into the NFL. Every year is 3,200. That's not mentioning the guy that was there last year that played 1 year. That's got cut. He's still trying.
Right.
So now you add those
guys,
2,800.
Yeah. Right.
You got a mass amount of guys trying to get in one spot, and they're all great. That's the problem with the NFL. That's why you see so many guys that come from college and they're awesome. Like Johnny Manziel. He was an awesome college athlete.
Yeah.
Then he got into the league and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Because the NFL is literally the cream of the crop. And you can be a great college player, but there's some guys that get in college that aren't that great or good. In the NFL, every single one of those guys are big. They're all strong. They're all fast. They're all mean. And then the guys that are nice, they're only nice when the helmet's off. When they put their helmet on, they're mean too. It is just it is literally a league of elite athletes. And for anybody that's trying to get into that league, you better be big, you better be fast and all that stuff. Of course, you got to have the talent. Basketball, same thing. You better be tall. You got to have all those attributes that they look for. But man, you got to understand how many people want that job and will go to whatever extent to get it because it's not a normal salary. You come out of college making $400,000. It's not the same. So if you're out there and you're going into any professional league, understand you need to get your degree. I tell all kids that get your degree. If you leave college early,
go back.
Set aside $100 grand, $150 grand, set it aside to go and finish your degree. You got to get that paper. Because if you don't get your degree, you're so limited in the stuff you can do. You're just going to be a guy that's just sitting around talking about all the stuff you did.
You used to do, yeah.
So you don't want to be that guy. So I always encourage people to get their degrees and, don't just take off. Sit and enjoy college. And I know when you got an opportunity to make the money, go make the money if you're on that level. But education is always going to be at the forefront. And be honest, man, put $300,000 aside and go to law school. Go do that stuff that we need more people of color. And just be honest, we need more people in those realms. We don't need to protest so much. We need people in positions to change things, and that's what I see. But if I could go back in time, I would have definitely went to law school. I was so enamored with football, so that was the path I chose, and it worked out. But if you're in college right now, I encourage everybody to go and learn the law. Go and get in your books. You come into some money, set money aside. If you got to take out a loan to go to school, you might as well take out a loan to go and do something that can change the world. Don't just take out a loan to go be a art major or whatever. Not saying those aren't significant, but you need to go and do something that's going to have an impact globally, because our president, Dr. Faison, he's a lawyer. You know, I mean, you got to understand that these people they know the law in ways that they can come into an institution to make changes. That's why he's doing so great, because he's a lawyer. He can read a contract. He can see where the discrepancies are. He can renegotiate, or he can say, no, we'll go another direction, and he can make those changes. But you got to have that upper level of education to do it. So my advice to everybody coming out, you go play sports, great, get the opportunity to go. But definitely can use some more lawyers and doctors and some more things, because we got enough athletes, man.
Yeah.
We got enough rappers. So
yeah.
You know, it's just,
and use it to get where you need to go at the next
absolutely.
level.
And then you can be a lawyer, a sports attorney.
There you
and
go.
You can represent guys in the NFL, and you still work in sports, those backgrounds. So
yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the
Thank
show
you for having me.
today.
I appreciate
We
it.
loved having him on. If people needed to get in contact with you or had some questions about strength and conditioning?
Twitter.
Okay.
Strength Rich 1. I want to say Strength Rich 1 is my Twitter handle. Don't have Facebook, so that's how I can be reached.
Or just head over to EWC.
Or
right.
come out to a basketball or football game or a baseball game, and I'll be the guy silently yelling.
There you go. And don't forget, you can follow Get in the Game on social media as well. We have a YouTube channel, Get in the Game with Satara J. You can also follow us on Facebook, my personal page, Satara Bunch, that's BUNCHE, or you can check us out on the replay on 904live.com or Periscope. And if for some reason you would love to become a part of the sponsorship family here at Get in the Game, definitely reach out to us at getinthegameshow@gmail.com. Once again, if you would like to be a sponsor, a part of the partnership here at Get in the Game, you can reach us at getinthegameshow@gmail.com. Check us out next week. We're going to have a fabulous show. As I alluded to, we're going to have a sports psychologist on, as well as some professional players that play here for the Jacksonville Sharks, talking about minding the game, the mind of a professional athlete, in discussing players such as Antonio Brown and things of that nature that affect professional athletes. So you don't want to miss that show. You guys have a wonderful Tuesday evening, and we'll see you next week.